Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's doing fine tonight. Tonight we're going to do something special. Going to do a tier list. Now, I've been seeing a few other YouTubers been doing tier lists for a few years, and I always thought it'd be something that'd be really fun to do. So, since we are in March, I decided I would do one since it's the Women of Horror Month. Uh, I would do a Final Gal horror tier list. Of course, I say gal instead of girl because let's face it, these are grown ass women. So we'll use the term gals instead. Of course, I'll probably slip and say girls anyway. But so I thought, this would be a lot of fun to do. Let me share this here. Okay. Let me see here. There we go. Got that all together because we've got quite a few we're going to be doing. I end up getting about, it was probably altogether about, I think like 46 different characters, different final gals of horror, and could have easily done 100, but then we'd be here for like 4 hours or so. So I don't think anyone wants to listen to me for 4 hours straight. So I did about 46. Uh, Basically, I um, try to spread it out over the decades, dating back, starting with like around 1974, because that's really where the Final Girls really start, as far as in modern horror goes, because you have basically Sally from Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Jess from Black Christmas really kind of start things off as far as that type of character goes. And I think we all know what the final gal is. It's the main female protagonist in a horror film. It's the person we are following for the most part, and they're the normally the last or one of the few survivors left. So, what are some of the great qualities that we look for? At least what I look for in a great final gal, and one is, of course, likability and relatability. We want someone who we can relate to. For women, it's probably someone that they see themselves at or someone they want to be. For the guys, it's probably someone that reminds them, say, of their sister or their mother or their girlfriend or wife or their third cousin twice removed. Either way, by having that type of a character uh, when they are in danger, then that just brings out the horror that much more. Whereas if the character is not likable, we don't care about them, and therefore it just becomes a bloodbath or whatever, and we don't care about the character. And Final Girls are normally synonymous normally with the slasher genre, but they can certainly carry over into the to other subgenres of horror as well. So I've got like 5 different tiers on this tier list. We have Badass Queen, and I think that says it all. This is like top of the line for me. These are my very favorite final gals in horror. Then we have Warrior Princess right underneath that, which are still, I really enjoy those characters as well. Not quite up to to the top tier level, but damn close. We have Strong Survivors, which means I think they're good. I like them. Maybe nothing overly great, but pretty good, pretty solid. And then we come down to like Fair Maiden, which is just what it is. They're fair. They're okay. Nothing good, nothing necessarily horrible, but they're just okay. I can deal with them. And then the final bottom tier would be Should Have Died. These are the characters you really don't like. You didn't really want to see them survive. They're not likable in any way, shape, or form. They're annoying. They're maybe very bland characters and just don't do anything for me. So that's our tier, our 5 different tiers. that I'll be putting all these different characters in here. Uh, like I said, I think I end up with about 45, 46 different characters throughout the years. And chances are there's going to be a few that you probably have never heard of, or you at least didn't think about, which is okay because that way, well, think of it as a price of education. Get to learn about a final gal you never heard about or a movie you haven't seen yet. Then there's probably going to be some popular ones amongst you that aren't on the list, and a lot of that's could be due to the fact that either A, it's a movie I just haven't seen yet. Believe it or not, I have not seen every horror movie that's been made, especially if it's come out recently, say in the last 20 years or so. There's a good chance I might not have seen it, or if I have seen it, it's been so long ago I can't really I can't really make much sense of it. It's been so long that I don't really have much recollection of the movie. And the third option could be just for the simple fact that maybe I just plain forgot about them. And that's certainly possible. So we're going to go ahead and get this started here. Going back to the very beginning. So let's go to Marilyn Burns as Sally Hardesty in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I'm trying to think where I want to put her. I know she's a very iconic character. I'm going to put her in as Strong Survivor. She's good. I like the character. Done really well. But, she basically is just that. She's a good survivor. Doesn't really fight back a whole lot. She's just running throughout most of this movie. And that's just the way the character was written and how the movie progressed. She doesn't really put up a lot of fights. She's just running to get the hell out of there, jumping that pickup truck, and head on out. So, yeah, I have her at the Strong Survivor category. The next one is we have Jess from Black Christmas, played by Olivia Hussey. And I really love her performance. I really love the character. I'm going to have to put her in at Strong Survivor just because she really doesn't do anything that defeats Billy, who's the main killer in this movie. In fact, she ends up killing the wrong person, her boyfriend, which you could argue is a bit of a douchebag, bit of a douchebag himself, and kind of a minor villain in there. But at the end, who knows how much longer she survives? She's there in her bed, passed out. Billy is still in the house. The police have done left, so who knows what happens? So she never really fights Billy, never defeats Billy. So that's why I'm putting her in at the Strong Survivor section there. The next one we've got is the character of Susie from 1977's Suspiria, played by Jessica Harper. And I'm going to put her in at Strong Survivor 2. She does end up burning the whole house down and thus defeats not only the coven, but the main witch herself. But her character is at times maybe a little bland at times. Not a bad character, certainly a much better version of that character than the remake, and that's not even close. But yeah, I'll put her in at the Strong Survivor. I was debating. I mean, a lot of these could have been these first three could have went back and forth between Strong Survivor and Warrior Princess, but we'll see how the rest of these progress. So the next one, and this is one that really kind of where the term final girl came from, and that's of course Laurie Strode in the Halloween's franchise, played by Jamie Lee Curtis. Oh boy. Yeah, I'd have to put her up at Badass Queen. Yeah, there are some of the movies she appears in where, I kind of didn't feel like she was as likable in the newer movies. And in the first two movies, she's great in it, but she's definitely more of a survivor than a fighter. But that comes full circle with Halloween H2O, where I think that's the best version we get of Laurie Strode. Even though it's certainly not the best movie in the series. and it's definitely Jamie Lee Curtis's best performance, I think, as that character. I know you may disagree with me on some of those. Some might say it's Halloween 2018 or the first Halloween, but I think overall, if you just watched 1, 2, and H2O, it makes for really a perfect arc. So, yeah, I'll put Laurie Strode up as Badass Queen. The next one, and is this even a debate? Ellen Ripley from the Alien franchise, played by Sigourney Weaver. Definitely one of the more smarter, and I would say more mature final gals that we get. I mean, just her overall survivability, her ability to think on her feet, which is something I think you want to find in a final girl. A few other qualities I want to see too is how how big is the deck stacked against them? How dangerous is the foe they're going against as well? And she's dealing with a monster that, like the character Parker say, you don't dare kill it because it bleeds acid. But she's able to outthink her way through that, think on her feet. That's something we want. We want a final girl who is smart, not necessarily book smart, but street smart. And certainly Ripley has all those qualities. So next, we're going to go to the original Friday the 13th. And that is the character of Alice, played by Adrienne King. And I'll put her in at strong survivor. I think she's a good final girl. She's not my favorite. Some people will put her the best in the franchise. I don't think that's the case. Her character is okay through most of it, and then of course in the last 5-10 minutes she really comes into her own. But for the most part, I would put her in at strong survivor. Next, we have Stevie Wayne, played by Adrienne Barbeau in The Fog, and I'm going to put her in at Warrior Princess. It's true, she doesn't really defeat the ghosts that come back from the fog, but what she does do is she helps saves a lot of lives in the process, in that she's basically the only line of communication as far as where this fog is going. She's trying to warn people, trying to keep people out of harm's way, and at the same time trying to save her son. And that's like, those are some characters I really do like, are your more motherly figures. I do like those characters, and she fits into that. She's extremely likable, and yeah, she's great in that film. I think it's one of Adrienne Barbeau's best roles. So yeah, I would put her in at Warrior Princess. The next one, we have Wendy Torrance, played by Shelley Duvall in The Shining. And I mean, she's kind of a weak character for part of the movie, but that's probably part of her arc. And I'm really trying to debate where I want to put her in, but she really does come through at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and put her at Warrior Princess as well. Because obviously she's very timid, very soft spoken throughout most of the movie. And I think a lot of that is due, she's definitely a character who's very much afraid of her husband and is very much afraid of her son, what he might do to him and what he could do to her. And get an idea that he's probably that Jack is very verbally abusive. So she does finally in that last act make her stand against him. So yeah, I could put her in that Warrior Princess. And then we have another final gal from the Friday the 13th series, and that is Ginny from part 2. And I will put her in that Warrior Princess as well. I like how she uses her intellect and her education, because she's a psychiatry student, using that to try and outwit Jason. I will say, much as I love Friday Part 2, it is one of the weaker Jasons perhaps in the series, but still a pretty dangerous foe to beat. And one thing the Friday the 13th series, and talking about it this weekend, is they've been very good at producing some really good Final Girls. I don't think there's going to be any that's going to hit the badass queen mark, but plenty are going to hit the warrior princess mark for sure. And I would certainly put Ginny in that league. Next, let's see here. Who's up next here? We are going to have Donna Trenton from Cujo, played by the legendary Dee Wallace. And yeah, I'm going to put her in at Warrior Queen as well. We're talking about a mother who's fighting like hell in impossible situation. Her son is ill. They're trapped in a car. It's probably 100 degrees out. Car won't start, and you have this rabid Saint Bernard that's possessed trying to kill them. And she does what any great mother would do, and that's basically fight off the evil to save her son, which she accomplishes at the very end. So, yeah, I definitely would put Donna from Cujo up there as a badass queen. And next, we have from Slumber Party Massacre, we have Valerie, played by Robin Still. I think that's who it is. I can see most of these are going to probably be in the top three, though I am going to have some in the bottom two. But I'll put her in as a strong survivor. I think it's a pretty good character. Well played by, yeah, it is Robin Still who plays Valerie. You know, she's there. She's also protecting her sister at the same time. I just think the character, I mean, what I like most about Slumber Party Massacre is the narrative. There is a very obviously strong feminist message in that movie. And that's what kind of makes the movie really good, plus probably a few other things. I do find the killer, Russ Thorn, to be kind of weak looking. I mean, I'm only 5'8", but that guy looks like he's maybe 5'4", 5'6". He's not the most menacing looking killer, is what I'm trying to say. And it really shouldn't have been that hard to kill him in the first place. But so yeah, I'll put her in as a strong survivor. Let's see next, and here's one you probably haven't thought of, and I definitely wanted to get at least someone from one of the Giallo films, and that is the character of Anne from Tenebrae, another Dario Argento film, played by Daria Nicolodi, who actually played in quite a few of these Italian horror films. She's good. She's good. Once again, oftentimes, you know, the Giallo films weren't really known for creating really good, strong characters, by and large, but particularly the female characters. But this one here, I think, was pretty good. And when I kind of put in the list on in the last minute there, so yeah, gets away from the killer, fights back a little bit, gets a little bit bloody in the process, but yeah, so I'll have Anne there as a strong survivor. Let's see. Next, here we have another Friday the 13th final gal, and that would be, of course, Chris from Friday the 13th Part 3, played by Dana Kimmel. And I'm going to put her also up in the Warrior Princess category. She really takes the fight to Jason and does a little bit of harm to him, even hanging him at one point. And of course, she's the first final girl to take on Jason with the hockey mask on. A little bit of a, seemed like a little bit more of a bigger, brawnier Jason this time, played by Richard Brooker. But yeah, I really like the character. I think she's underrated in the series, really. But I think more and more people are starting to appreciate that character. So yeah, I've got her up there at Warrior Princess. And then, boy, 84 was a strong year because we're coming up on some movies from 84. We have, of course, Nancy Thompson, played by Heather Langenkamp in Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, we're going to put her up as Badass Queen. Of course, she returns in Part 3, Dream Warriors. And I guess kind of sort of in Wes Craven's New Nightmares, really just Heather Langenkamp playing herself, playing in a lot of ways, playing Nancy. But this is a great character. Even though she dies at the end of part three, uh, she kind of takes on kind of a mentor role where she's helping these kids deal with Freddy Krueger, and ends up sacrificing herself and pretty much taking Freddy to hell with her. Well, maybe she doesn't go to hell, but he does, at least for a little bit, at least for one more movie. But in the first one, she's really good. She's fairly smart. I think she's a very likable character. I think most people would agree with that. And I really like how she kind of set a trap for Freddy. She's got some little bit, did some booby traps, and it makes me wonder, I kind of think my new fan theory is that Nancy Thompson is the biological birth mother of Kevin McAllister. I think Kevin was put up for adoption because Nancy had him too young, and he went to go live with the McAllisters. They got plenty of money. I bet you all their kids were probably adopted. Who knows? That's where he got his thing for like setting up all those traps. And the father is probably John Kramer. So there you go. There's my real big fan theory that Kevin McAllister's real parents are Nancy Thompson and John Kramer. So there you go. But yes, Nancy Thompson, definitely a badass queen. Next, and here's one you might not think of as far as horror goes, but that is definitely Sarah Connor from Terminator, played by, of course, Linda Hamilton. She's definitely, I'm going to put her in as a badass queen. Now, the sequels certainly I would not consider to be horror movies. Those are definitely sci-fi action movies, but the first Terminator is very much in the pacing of a typical slasher film. It's just that instead of carrying a machete or a butcher knife, your killer is carrying an assault rifle. But she definitely follows those tropes there. Not necessarily the tropes per se. She actually goes against the tropes because she actually has sex in the movie and lives. Kyle Reese doesn't necessarily, but she does. But she's a little bit timid, a little bit awkward in the beginning, and eventually starts finding her strength at the very end. And it's a very iconic scene, those last, I think, 10, 15 minutes of that movie when she tells him, "You're terminated, fucker." Yeah, and of course she goes on to be even more iconic in Terminator 2. But definitely from the first Terminator, yeah, I will put Sarah Connor in as a badass queen. So next on the list, another Friday girl, and that is Trish, played by Kimberly Beck from Friday the 13th, Chapter 4, the final chapter. Once again, I mean, she really takes none of these girls really made the badass queen. I think partially, had they came back like in a sequel, that might have heightened their character. It's not necessarily the end all be all to be the badass queen, but sometimes it can certainly help. And I often wondered why this character, why they never brought Trish back in some of the sequels, like part 5 or even part 6, to kind of join her brother Tommy in the fight against Jason. I think that was kind of a missed opportunity, but she does some serious damage to Jason, hitting him in the skull with the machete and fighting back. Basically her and her brother Tommy really kind of tag team him a little bit. But yeah, great character as well. So, and then next we're going to go with, and this is coming from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. We have, played by Caroline Williams. I'm going to make sure I get that right, because I sometimes get Caroline Williams and Carolyn Jones mixed up, which would be way off base. But yes, the character of Stretch in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. And yeah, we can put her in as a strong survivor. A really good, likable character for sure. Pretty much just gets away by the skin of her teeth, so to speak. But, that movie was pretty much, and I forget the character's name, but it was really Dustin, I was almost going to say, what was I going to say? Dennis Hopper's character going toe-to-toe with Leatherface in the family. But yeah, I really liked Stretch. I think everyone does. I think that's a very popular character in the series and certainly in that movie. And finally, this is going to be the last, I promise, the last Friday the 13th final girl we're going to have. But that's the character of Megan, played by Jennifer Cook. In Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. She's a much different type of final girl than what we had gotten so far in the series. She's far more assertive of a person, very much far more assertive, aggressive, shall we say. I think we get the idea that she's not what you would call the virtuous virgin that you normally see in these movies, but she's, I mean, she very helpful. She's like the only person that believes Tommy, kind of like that typical trope. And the two of them really make a great duo. I really wish, I've always said this, I really would have liked for them to have brought those two characters back for Freddy versus Jason. I thought that's what Freddy versus Jason was missing, was legacy protagonists from both of those series, and I thought those two could have been the two they could have brought back for that crossover film. So yeah, I definitely like Megan. I think most people do. I think she gives that movie a lot of little bit of an extra spunk to that movie. Next, and this is no surprise here, we have, of course, Kirsty Cotton from the Hellraiser franchise, played by Ashley Lawrence. She's going up into Badass Queen. That's no surprise, as everyone knows. I'm a huge Hellraiser fan, and just a couple weeks ago, I released a video on the Hellraiser series that I do. I have such sites to show you, detailing kind of a deep dive character analysis on her. Definitely my favorite of all time, so that shouldn't surprise anyone. Everyone knows me long enough knows that's my favorite. And once again, this is someone who checks all the boxes. Plus, when you think about what she had to deal with, dealing with not only Pinhead and the other Cenobites, but also Julia, Frank in the first one. She has to deal with all of them by herself practically. Grant in the second movie, she gets a little bit of help, and we'll be getting to that character in a little bit. But yeah, I definitely have Kirsty in as a badass queen. And if she can outthink and out survive those guys, that's pretty good because it doesn't get much more dangerous or menacing than the Cenobites. Next, we got another one from the Halloween franchise, and that is Rachel, specifically from Halloween 4, played by Ellie Cornell. And I'm putting her at Warrior Princess. She really does take the fight to Michael towards the end in the interest of saving her foster sister, Jamie. Unfortunately, if they had done a better job with that character in Halloween 5, I could have almost put her up in the Badass Queen section. But God, they destroyed that character in Halloween 5. So, but yeah, I will put Rachel in the category of Warrior Princess. Next, we have from another movie from 1988, that being from Night of the Demons, a movie I really love. I think it's a favorite of most people. But we have the character of Judy, played by, let me check her name again. It is, give me a second here. I had the list right here in front of me. Kathy Podwell, or Podwell, one of the two. And I'm going to put her in the Fair Maiden section here. And because through most of the movie, as much as I love the movie, most of the movie she comes across as being almost overplays that virginal trope. Comes across being very prissy, very whiny. Granted, she does, I think, kind of redeems herself in the last 10-15 minutes in the last act of that movie, but she would have almost made the should have died list. But like I said, she does kind of fight back a little bit in the last part. She does help save Roger, who's kind of like the final guy of that film. But yeah, I'm just going to put Fair Maiden. I didn't hate the characters, just a little bit of annoying through most of that movie. Now, here's one that probably not too many people think about when we talk about great final gals in horror, and that's the character of Meg, or Megan, but I think it's more or less Meg, played by Shawnee Smith from the Blob remake in 1988. And I'm going to put her in the Warrior Princess category. I really like that character. I think it's one of my favorite characters that she has played. Now, one caveat I wanted to explain that I didn't mention in the beginning, a lot of these actresses have played more than one final girls in different movies. For example, Jamie Lee Curtis has played, Laurie Strode, but she's also been the final girl in a few other movies. I'm only going to limit to like one character per actress. Um, and obviously, I think Shawnee Smith's certainly more known for her role in Saw movies. But that character there, it's kind of, is she really a final girl in the Saw movies, or is she more? It's a very great character because she's really more of a partner and an accomplice to Jigsaw. So I don't know if I would necessarily consider a final gal in the Saw movies, but in the Blob, definitely, and it's definitely the best character in that whole movie. And the Blob remake's probably one of the best remakes ever made. It probably even eclipsed the original movie. So yeah, I've got Shawnee Smith's Meg from the Blob, 1988, as a warrior. Next, when we talk about partners in crime here, not quite. We're going to go with Alice, played by Lisa Wilcox from the Nightmare on Elm Street parts 4, 5. I think Brady's dead too. Um, I'm putting her in as the strong survivor. She's a good character. I think part of it is those later movies I'm not a big fan of, but I did like that character. I just wish she had been in maybe a better. If she had been in like one of the earlier films, maybe had she been featured in part 3 or even in part 2, I would have really liked that character a lot better. I do like the character. It's just that Freddy's so goofy. It's hard to find him that scary in parts 4 and 5. And, you know, Freddy's dead. I don't know. There aren't too many people. There's a few people I know that like that movie. But yeah, I'll put Allison as a strong survivor. I guess both Alice's that we've got so far from Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street are both strong survivors. So there we go. And next we are going to go with Tiffany from Hellbound Hellraiser 2, played by Imogen Borman. I've been like thinking I'm going to put her in as a strong survivor as well. I really like the character. She's certainly, I think I've said this, she's kind of like in Hellraiser 2, the Robin to Kirsty's Batman. Finally, Kirsty gets some competent help, and the two of them really do work together in that in that third act. Especially getting the best of Julia once again, and then getting the best of the Channard Cenobite. They really do a great job working together. I think because she doesn't speak a whole lot of the movie, we really don't know enough about that character, or else maybe I always thought they should have brought her back along with Kirsty with some of the following sequels. Of course, Kirsty does come back in Hellseeker, but that's just a cameo. Just to see more, just to learn more about the character, and maybe that would have elevated her up a little bit more. But yeah, I could put Tiffany in as a strong survivor for sure. I can see, just look at this. I'm gonna have a lot of these, but we're gonna have. All right, here we're going. Certainly, now we're into the '90s, so we're gonna go with Mia Harker. I think just Mia, because I don't think, played by Winona Ryder in, of course, Bram Stoker's Dracula, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Um, Certainly one of the best versions of the character, because oftentimes Mia is relegated in some of the other movies as not necessarily a main focus character, but rather just a side character. But I can put her in at strong survivor. kind of brings this on herself. I mean, some of the things, but she does end up giving the death blow to Dracula. It's just I didn't care much. The one thing I didn't like about that movie, I do like that movie. I didn't like the love. I didn't like the emphasis on the romance of the movie. I think it's what I kind of turned me off. Not that I don't mind romance and horror, but not my Dracula films. But I can put her in as a strong survivor for sure. I'd actually like to see Winona Ryder come back and do some more actual horror films. I know she was in Beetlejuice, but that's more of a zany horror comedy. But I would like to see her come back. And oftentimes we see actresses as they get a little bit older, we see them come back to the horror genre. So hopefully we'll see her again. Hopefully someone cast her in another horror movie. Now, this one, people are going to really probably get pissed at me for here. And that is we're going with the character of Clarice, played by Jodie Foster in Silence of the Lambs. Now, keep in mind, I've never had the same love for Silence of the Lambs as most people do, and I'm not sure why. Maybe because this was the rare time where I actually read the book before seeing the movie. Normally, it's the other way around. And I'm going to put Clarissa in that strong survivor, but I almost put her in fair maiden just because the character in the book is so much better described and just much more layered. I just kind of found it, maybe it was just the performance or how she was directed, but I just found the character to be very bland. There isn't a lot of personality to her. And so therefore I don't find her that interesting of a character. But that being said, she does outsmart the killer, Buffalo Bill. She does kill him, so she does kill the villain, and she holds her own from intelligence standpoint, and she is a very intelligent character, holds her own against Hannibal Lecter. Now, the character in Hannibal, I think, gets severely dumbed down. Of course, that's played by a different actress, but I can at least give the character enough saying it's a very smart character. It's just maybe not as well developed as I would have liked to see. I would have liked to see a little bit more, I guess, personality from that character. But yeah, I'll put Clarice in that strong survivor. Next, and of course, I was going to have a character, one of Barbara Crampton's characters, and that's the character of Susan Riley from the Full Moon movie Castle Freak, one of many movies that she stars opposite legendary Jeffrey Combs. This is one of my favorite, probably one of my favorite performances. Obviously, she doesn't really survive Reanimator, so I couldn't use that character. I could have probably went from Beyond, but I really like this character. This is a character that is dealing with a lot, very much in a marriage that's on the verge of collapse, protecting her daughter who's blind, and then dealing with her husband who does redeem himself at the end. But I really love the character. In the end, her and her husband, they do kind of now start working more as a team to protect her daughter, and it's her husband who kind of, ends up, sacrificing himself. But yeah, I guess I'm a sucker for mothers of horror. If it's a good enough character, they're going to get in this top two brackets right here. So yeah, I'll definitely put that character Susan up there at Warrior Princess. Next we have the character. So I go one more from the Hellraiser series, and that's the character of Joey, played by Terry Farrell from Hellraiser 3. And I'll put her in as a strong survivor. Doesn't mean I necessarily like her as much or better as some of these, but I think she's pretty good. That's strong, tough shoes to fill for sure. But I think she does a good job in the movie. There are probably some times where she's not the brightest character in the world, but oftentimes these characters sometimes make mistakes. But no, I thought she did good. Hellraiser 3 is a much different tone of a movie, but I think her performance tries to bring it back a little bit. But Yeah, I could put her in as a strong survivor. Oh boy, this is where I don't know. I may lose most of my subscribers here. I don't know. But we have from the Scream franchise, we've got Sidney Prescott, played by Nev Campbell. And to be honest, I'm not a big fan of the franchise. I've only seen the first two films, but and I find Ghostface to be a very weak villain. But I can put her in as a strong survivor. Just at least at the very least, based off the first two films, I think she does a good job. I certainly don't. I think the performance is good. I just, the movies themselves, I'm not real big into. They're just not my type of thing. Combination. I don't really like the meta thing, and I think the movies look too clean, and everyone looks like they came off the set of Beverly Hills 90210. But I think she's a good character. I don't put her up as iconic as the others, and maybe my opinion would change a little bit if I'd seen some of the other sequels, but I don't really have much of a desire to. But I can put her in as strong survivor for sure. The next one, and definitely if my friend Molly is watching me, is probably going to kill me for doing this, but also from the Scream franchise, Gale Weathers. And I gotta be honest with you. And once again, I've only seen the first two movies, but she should have died. I remember seeing Scream, the first original one, in the theater, and I could not stand that character. She was so annoying, so bitchy. Uh, Nothing overly. Yeah, she redeemed herself a little bit in the end, and then Scream 2, she's a little bit better, but trust me, in the first movie, I'm thinking, why are you're killing off all these other characters? Why aren't you killing her off? But yeah, this one's probably going to be my biggest hot take, but no, there'll be another one coming up. But I would put her in should have died. Um, Sorry, but I'm not sorry. But anyhow, next, and we got another one. This one from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, and that's the character. No, wait, I'm off a little bit. No, we have getting ahead of myself here. From I Know What You Did Last Summer, we have played by Jennifer Love Hewitt, the character Julie, and of course the subsequent sequels. I've only seen the first two, and I would say once again, not my favorite movie in there. I probably like those movies a little bit more than I do the Scream films, just because I thought the villain at the very least is far more menacing. So, and she's okay. She's a little whiny at times, but I actually like her best performance. I really like. Jennifer Love Hewitt did a show around the late 90s, early 90s, or early 2000s called Ghost Whisperer, which was really good. And I really liked her in that. And that's an actress too. I'd like to see come back and not know the latest requel or whatever it is that they made, but do some other horror I'd like to see her in. So, but I can put her in as a strong survivor. As you can see, it's pretty easy to get on the strong survivor tier list. Just be somewhat useful and somewhat likable. I have much tougher standards as far as getting into the warrior princess or getting into that warrior princess or certainly a badass queen. You're gonna have to really, really impress me to get into that section. So there we go. So is okay. Next, now we're going to go towards Erin, played by Jessica Biel in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake from, let's see, where do I want to put her in? Strong Survivor or Warrior Prison. She does do a little bit more of does fight back a little bit more. I gotta scroll this up here. Even though definitely the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is terrific, certainly the best of the series, I do like Erin a little bit more than Sally. I think just because she does fight back a little bit more. So I could justify putting her in Warrior Princess. I would say out of the Texas Chainsaw movies, the remake's probably my second favorite. Still nowhere near as good as the first one, but still a really well done remake. So I could put her up there at Warrior Princess for sure. Now here's one, and here's one I think is a character that a lot of people forget sometimes, but that is the character of Cherry from Planet Terror, played by Rose McGowan, and she's definitely going up here. Let's put her up there, the badass queen. She has her leg amputated and puts a machine gun on it or assault rifle. That's about as badass as Ash Williams putting a chainsaw on his sever where his hand used to be. Yeah, if that's not doesn't scream badass, no pun intended, I don't know what does. And there's a character I wish they could have brought back in a sequel or even just a standalone movie. Would have loved to have seen that character come back, but yeah, I will put her up in Badass Queen for sure. Next, we have, and here's a movie that probably not a lot of you may have seen, depends on your taste, but from House of the Devil, the character of Samantha, played by Jocelyn Donahue. In this one, I really loved the character for sure. Very likable. House of the Devil, of course, directed by Ty West. I think it's his first feature film. Very much a slow burn, but she's the type of character that keeps you engaged enough. She, of course, has to deal with basically a devil cult that wants to not just sacrifice her, they want to somehow impregnate her with the Antichrist. She does fight them off. She actually kills a couple of them pretty gruesomely, too, I might add. And for someone who's not very big in stature, that was pretty impressive. Um, she tries to thwart their plans by shooting herself in the head. Unfortunately, the bullet must have missed, and as we see her at the end of the hospital, so she is technically a final girl. But I can put her in at strong survivor for sure. Very well liked character though, and an excellent movie. So if you haven't seen House of the Devil, definitely check that one out. Oh, here's one of my all-time favorites from the Hatchet movies, or specifically Hatchets 2 and 3. We have the character of Mary Beth, played by Danielle Harris, at least in parts 2 and 3. And she is going all the way up there. I got to move this up here. We're definitely going to put her up in Badass Queen. I love that character. They had a different, she's actually a recast. Always going to forget the actress's name who played Mary Beth in the first movie, who did a good job. But I think Danielle brought in a little bit more personality, a little bit more attitude to this character. You know, we talk about going up against a really dangerous foe. We're talking about someone who's maybe 5 foot tall, soaking wet, going up against one of the more brutal slasher villains we've ever seen in Victor Crowley. And she holds her own. And yeah, it's kind of, well, I guess she does survive part 3 because she does show back up in Victor Crowley for a brief moment. But yeah, I love everything about this character. Doesn't take any shit. She's typical Cajun lady, I guess you could say. And, you know, she just wants to, initially, she wants to find her father and brother who disappeared in the swamp. She knows they're dead. She goes back out again to try at least recover the remains. And by the third one, she's literally forced to go back in there and once again square off with Victor Crowley. So I just love the character. And got both a badass side, a humorous side, but yet a bit of a compassionate side as a side to her as she relates to some of the other characters. So not all. There's a few characters she will just tell them to fuck off, but which is what I think we all love that character anyway. So yeah, I have Mary Beth in as one of my badass queens. So finally, well, we're starting to get down here. So the next one, and this one's from another remake, and this is from the Night of the Demons remake. Of course, we talked about the original one. Now we have the character of Maddie, played by Monica Keena, and I'm putting her in at Warrior Princess. The one thing, and I love both the remake and the original. To be honest, I haven't even seen the sequels, but what gives the remake a slight edge over the original is that the final girl is just so much better. She's she's just a little bit more of a true warrior. Really, she certainly takes on a leadership role very early when shit starts hitting the fan. She doesn't cower. Uh, and she's got a lot of good attitude and good personality, and she actually kind of outthinks these demons, including Angela. Who, granted, no one's can play a better Angela than Amelia Kincaid in the original, but uh, yeah, I really like the character of Maddie, and I would definitely put her up in the warrior princess level. And I'm surprised a lot of people have not seen the remake. I would certainly check it out anytime. So, and now we've got. It's amazing. We did have some really good remakes that came out in the 2000s because my next one, and this one was probably the most surprising for me, and that's the character of Mia, played by Jane Levy in the Evil Dead remake of 2013, and I'm going to put her in this as well. I remember I didn't see that movie in the theater. I waited till it came up on. Oh, I think I probably did stream it a few years later and was really surprised how well it was and really surprised how great the character was. And I kind of wish, and there was one Final Girl I didn't bring back was the one from, and I forget the character's name, Evil Dead Rise. I didn't include that character in the list, but I was really hoping they were going to bring Mia back for that movie. And maybe they will on, because we're going to have another Evil Dead movie coming out this sometime this summer, I think. So hopefully they bring that character back because I'd like to see her again. So yeah, and I know that's a very popular character amongst most people. So the next one I'm going to have, let's see who we have next here. Bear with me here. Oh, okay. Kind of like getting to move into the. Let's see who we got there. Oh, okay. This is one I almost forgot about and added in the last minute. And this is from the movie from, I think it was 2016, 2017, the movie Revenge. The character being Jen, played by Matilda Lutz. This was a movie directed by uh, Coraline Forgo, who directed The Substance most recently. She's definitely, I'm going to put her in the Warrior Princess. This is a very dark revenge thriller. Definitely wanted to, and I couldn't believe I almost forgot to add her to the list, but it's one that doesn't get talked enough. But Jen is definitely a true badass. You know what? I'm putting her in badass queens. When you see the type of shit she goes through in this movie, if you haven't seen it, to be assaulted and beat up in the way she does, and then come back and start killing off people, and particularly her boyfriend who kind of orchestrated it, who's a real fucking piece of shit asshole all the way, and for her to get her revenge, and it's not all easy. She gets banged up quite a bit in the process. She survives a lot. Yeah, I'm putting Jen from Revenge as a badass queen for sure. Now we're getting to next. We're going to go to It Chapter 2 and the character of Beverly Marsh. This is, of course, the adult version of Beverly, played by Jessica Chastain. And I'll put her in as Strong Survivor, a pretty good character. And granted, it's, yes, technically she's the final gal of that movie. Of course, she's everyone else is a bunch of final guys, so it's really kind of an ensemble that's taking on Pennywise. But I thought it's a pretty good movie. Obviously, Chapter 2 gets a lot of hate, which I don't understand where the hate comes from. It's not as good as the first one but I think it's a very complimentary sequel to It Chapter 1, and I think she does a good job. And kind of need another Stephen King adaptation character, so I thought, well, that's a good one to go with. And I think in the I'll probably do like a final Kids of Horror at some point, in which I think a lot of the Losers Club from It Chapter 1 will definitely make it in. But yeah, I'll definitely put Beverly in as a strong survivor. Next, let's go with one of my recent favorites. In 2022, we got quite a few from movies from 2022 listed in here, but one of them is the character of Tori, played by Riley Dandy. And this one you might not know, but it's from Christmas Bloody Christmas, which came out in late 2022, a Christmas slasher film. And yeah, I'm putting her up into Badass Queen as well. I'll have to do a video on this. I've written a Substack article on Christmas Bloody Christmas and how much I love this character. True badass. I mean, whatever you've been taught and what all the so-called rules are regarding what a final girl is supposed to be, take it, throw it away, because I mean, she is likable. At least I find her likable, and but I mean, she's just about as foul mouth of a final girl as you're going to find. Kind of rivals that of Mary Beth in a lot of ways, and maybe that's what I like about some of these characters is they're good, but they're not overly perfect. They are I kind of like it when they're got a little bit of an attitude about them, and she's fighting this freaking cyborg killer Santa all across her little Norman Rockwell looking Christmas town. And yeah, I love that character. I wish they would do a sequel and bring her back, but who knows? But yeah, definitely I would say Riley from Christmas Bloody Christmas, one of my favorite badass queens. Well, we just have a few left here. And here's one that might catch some hell from. And that's the character of Sienna, played by Laura Lovato from Terrifiers 2 and 3. And I'm going to put as a fair maiden. And I'll explain why. Now, I like the actress. I think she does her best with this character. And she's a good character from Terrifier 2. She does have a bit of an arc. I think it goes a little crazy because she kind of like turns into She-Ra, or I don't know what the fuck there at the end, but she finds the way to kill Art, and she does, at least one sequel. But Terrifier 3, she doesn't do shit in that movie really until the last 5 or 10 minutes. And people want to, if you want to put her up there, the upper echelon of badass horror queens, okay, but I don't think she compares. And the reason I say that is, like I said, she knows, all right, yes, she's gone through some trauma. True, from the previous film. It's been, I think, roughly a year or so after the events of that. I can't remember. I've only seen the third one once. But she knows Art's out there. She knows how to stop him, but she doesn't do jack shit until it's basically almost too late, where most of her family have already been butchered. And by the time she does do something, it's like almost too little too late. Now, maybe the character gets better in the next film. I don't know, but I'll put it this way. Would Ellen Ripley and Aliens just sit around and sulk most of the movie before finally taking the fight to the Xenomorphs? And the answer, of course, would be no. She wouldn't. She did just what she did. She knew people's lives were at risk. She knows how to fight these things, and she, without hesitation, went back to that very planet to try and save people and fight these Xenomorphs. And the same could be said true for Nancy Thompson or Kirsty Cotton or Sarah Connor or Mary Beth. Any of these would go back and take the fight back to the enemy, and that's something Sienna doesn't do. So I think Terrifier 3 really weakens that character a lot. Maybe if only Terrifier 2 existed, maybe I could put her in at least the strong survivor warrior princess mode, but for right now, I put her in at fair maiden. Next, and here's someone who would not run from art. In fact, this is someone who would make art piss his pants, and that is Maxine Minx, played by Mia Goth from both X and Maxine. And let's see here. Warrior Princess. Yeah, I'm going to put her in that badass queen for sure. This is a different type, once again, of Final Girl in that, well, we damn sure know she's not a virgin given the industry she works in. But she's a lot different in that she's very, I don't know, her motives are a lot different than other Final Girls that are just trying to save themselves or save someone else. She's really all about her own career and trying to, in this cutthroat world of being an actress in Hollywood. So and she's also trying to escape something. She's escaping her past of religious fanaticism, mainly in the form of her father. So she's doing a lot. She has a lot of different layers to this character. So, and of course, I mean, just watching her fight off Pearl in X, and then seeing her in Maxine, where she just goes ballistic. And Grant Maxine's probably my least favorite of those three movies. It's still good, but I wish it had been a little bit better. I wish they'd focused more on Maxine a little bit and didn't have as big of a cast. But overall, yeah, I love the character. I think most people do. Can't really counter in Pearl because she's playing the villain essentially in Pearl, but yeah, I'll put Mia Goth in there at the top level, badass queen as Maxine. Okay, and then we have Nehru, played by, and I definitely have to look up the name real quick here. It's really not that hard. Amber Midthunder. I should remember that. It's not that difficult of a name to remember. Definitely, I'm putting her at Warrior Princess for sure. I've only seen the movie once, and that was like shortly after it came to streaming. A movie that once again should have went straight to the theaters, but surprisingly, I really liked the character. She wasn't sulky or whiny. She just wanted to prove herself, and she did. In a time where women weren't allowed, especially in any culture, really to prove themselves in that way, and she certainly does. So, yeah, I'll put Nehru up there as a warrior princess. Finally, we still got a few more left. Well, let's go to take care of this one. And I don't even know the actress's name. I didn't write it down, but it's the character of Chris in A Violent Nature. And I am definitely putting her in Should Have Died. In fact, you know what? Yeah, she Should Have Died. Probably the single worst, or at least my least favorite Final Girl of any movie I've ever seen. It's kind of like why I wanted to put her in there. And normally I don't like focusing, as you can tell. Most of the ones I've listed tonight are going from good to great to excellent, with only a couple that are okay. But this character, uh, she doesn't do it. I mean, she doesn't do anything to earn the right to survive that movie. Literally, she's not from. We don't get to know the character or any of these characters for the most part, but every single one of them is unlikable. There's not a single character I would want to share a glass of water with. Okay, she stands there for about 10 minutes watching her boyfriend get mutilated to death and doesn't do jack shit. Just stands there. Just happens to drop his killer's bracelet on a tree stump or wherever it was, runs off, gets picked up by a car, and then we have this pointless 15-minute conversation that goes nowhere. That's more a reflection of the movie as a whole. Um, Maybe I'll do a video on my thoughts on it. I'm not a fan of that movie. I do like the killer, and there are some pretty gnarly kills, but I can't tell if the writer director just simply doesn't understand the slasher genre or if he's trolling us slasher fans. Because if he is, well, uh, kind of disrespectful because we are a lot more sophisticated than he's making us out to be. So, yeah, definitely the worst one. So, yeah, should have died. Shouldn't have been anyone that survived that movie. Had that been the case, I would have liked the movie a lot more. But next on the list we have from, let's see, this movie was this movie 2022, 2023? I can't remember. Well, anyhow, it is the character of Tess from Barbarian. And let me look up. I do have the actress's name, and I do like the actress, Georgina Campbell. And had she been more, she kind of disappears in the middle part of this movie, which is part of the plot. I get it, but had we seen more of her, I might have put her up at Warrior Princess. I do like the character. She's a little whiny at first, a little fidgety, but in the third act, she does come into her own. So I do like the character. I wish I liked the movie a lot more than I do. It was doing really good until they killed Skarsgård's character and brought in Justin Long instead, and that kind of like meh. Um, but yeah, I'll definitely I can put Tess in. It's a good character. I don't like to see that actress in some more movies once again. A lot of these actresses like to, particularly these newer ones or even the older ones, I like to see them do more horror. And they probably have. I probably just need to check out their filmographies and see what else they've done. So, well, we've got one last one here. And just bear with me here. Looking up the actress's name here. This is the most recent one, too, by the way, that we have here. And this is the character of Dina from Night of the Reaper, which came out last year. And I'm going to put her. Hold on. Where is she? Yeah, let's put her in Warrior Princess. I'll put her in there. Played by Jessica Clement. I know one you've heard of, and this is another movie that many of you probably have not seen yet. If you haven't, you should. It's my favorite horror movie of 2025. And I'm not going to spoil too much about the character, but what this character has, not only does she have some fight into her, not only is she likable, but she also one of the smartest characters you will see, because this character is certainly outsmarts the killer in a way that you don't see coming. We'll put it that way. But yeah, I'll definitely put this character, Warrior Princess. I hope they maybe someday do a sequel. I don't know. It probably doesn't need a sequel. It's probably a great standalone movie as itself. But yeah, that's a character I definitely wanted to mention tonight. So, because while I was doing this, I was like thinking of several other characters I didn't mention, but you know, maybe I should have like broke this down into decades. Really, I could have probably done that. Done one for the 70s and 80s, done one for 90s and 2000s, and one from 2010 on. That might have been the way to have done this. But anyhow, that's my list right there. I can say most of these are all, like I said, from good to pretty good to excellent, with just a few that I thought were okay and two that I just couldn't stand. But I'd be more than happy. I hope you guys like this. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already, and go ahead and share this. And I want to know, who are some of your favorites. Put that in your comments section below. I'd be certainly like to hear your thoughts on that. Ooh, let me bring back that. So anyhow, that's my little tribute to the Women in Horror Month. We will, of course, see everyone this Saturday night for my next live Horror Hangouts live stream. We'll be talking about the women of Friday the 13th, and looking at all of our favorite characters from that franchise. So, we will see. Thank you once again for joining me on this video, and we will see everyone next time. Thanks, everyone. Good night.